What to do if you have to borrow. Okay, we learned how to do that with subtracting decimals. We learned that with subtracting whole numbers. Every now and again you're going to have to borrow no matter what you're subtracting. So now we're going to see what we do when we have fractions and we have to do that. So here we have 3 1/4 and we're going to take away 1 3/4. Okay, step one still the same. We have to have common denominators, and it looks like here we both have 4s, so that's already taken care of for us. We don't have to do anything with that. However, I can't take 3/4 away from 1/4. Okay, so what do? So I need to borrow. Now, just like if we were borrowing whole numbers, if we had to change this column, we have to borrow from the column next door. So we need to borrow from the whole numbers here. So I'm going to take away this 3, and if I take away 1 whole, I would have 2 left. Okay? Now, that 1 whole that was in the whole numbers column is going to come over here into the fraction column. Well, what we have to understand is if we take 1 whole, and I taught you guys this earlier, the top number and the bottom number, the numerator and the denominator, will be the same. Okay? Now notice we're talking about fourths here. So if I take away 1 whole, that would be 4/4, just like this picture is showing us. Okay? So 2 4/4 is the same as 3 wholes, if you see where that came from. Now I'm going to take this 4/4, okay, I'm going to collect all of them, and I'm going to bring it over here into the fraction column. Okay? Now I already have 1/4 here, so if you wanted to see this, okay, I already had 1/4. Well, let's change these around so you guys can see them a little better. Okay? Isn't that 1/4 right there? So 3 1/4. Now I took 1 whole and brought it over fraction-wise, and I'm going to put it with the 1/4 I already have. So how many fourths do I have now? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 fourths. Okay? So this is going to be a 5. Now I know it's tempting because almost every other time we've borrowed, we just hook a 1 on there, but that is not correct. Okay? When it comes to fractions, it's different. So we took 1 whole away, which was 4/4, and we added it to the 1/4 that was already there, and we got 5/4. Okay? Now we subtract this thing. We can take 3/4 away from 5/4, and we get 2/4. Okay? And we'll reduce it here in just a second. Then we do our whole numbers. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, so now we have to reduce 2/4 because 2 goes into both of them. And that would equal 1 1/2. Okay? Now I do want to show you a little shortcut, just like I've done with the other ones. The shortcut is this. To figure out what number this is going to be up here, the one I have in pink, all you have to do is add your denominator plus your numerator, and you're going to get that number up there. Because 4/4, like right here, that's your bottom number, 4/4, and then you had 1 more fourth, that's where we got the 5/4. Okay? Let's try another one. Make sure you're doing these along with me, either on a piece of paper or on your whiteboards. Alright, so in this case we have 7 2/3, and we're going to take away 3 5/6. So step one, we always do this first, is we have to have common denominators. Right now we don't. We have a 3 and we have a 6. Okay? So the smallest one they both have in common is 6, right? So that one would be times 1 is 5/6. This one would be times 2, which would be 4/6. Okay, then we subtract. Can I take away 5/6 from 4/6? No, I can't. So I have to go next door to the whole numbers and take 1 away from the 7, and that becomes a 6. Okay? Now we're going to bring over 1 whole. Now if I bring over 1 whole, and we're talking about 6 here, how many 6s would I need for 1 whole? That's right, it'd have to be 6 6. So if I bring 6 6 over, and I already have 4 6, how many 6 do I have now combined? Or you can do the shortcut, take the denominator plus the numerator, and that would be 10 6. So now if you look at this again, here's the picture. That's actually thirds, but if I cut this in half like this, it would be 6 6. I already have 4 6 over here. So if I have the 4 6 plus these 6 more, I get 10 6. Now we can go ahead and subtract this thing. 10 6 take away 5 6 is 5 6. And then we have 6 minus 3 in our whole number column, and that would be 3. So our difference here would be 3 and 5 6. Now I've got one more to show you, and it's what do we do if we see something like this? Okay, well the temptation right away is to say, oh well, 2/5, nothing there, that's just going to be 2/5. No, it's not. That's just like having a subtraction problem where you have taking 0 or 7 away from 0, you're not going to get 7. Okay, that does not work. So what we got to do is we need to have a fraction here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same process. I can't take 2/5 away from nothing, so I have to borrow. So I'm going to take 1 from next door, and that becomes a 7. Okay, now we're talking about fifths here, so we need to keep the bottom number the same. I'm not going to do fourths or eighths or anything like that. I want fifths, so I want them to be the same. Now, if I take 1 whole from here, how many fifths would I have? Well, I would have 5/5. Remember, the top and bottom number have to be the same in order to be 1 whole. Okay, so I took that 1 whole away and made that 5/5. Now when I subtract it, I get 3/5, and 7 minus 3 is 4. So the difference of this problem is 4 and 3/5. Now remember, just like any subtraction problem, if you want to check to see if you're right, take your answer, add this number, and you should get this number. Okay? So if I take 4 and 3/5, and I add on 3 and 2/5, just like we do with every other subtraction problem, take the answer plus the middle one, and you should get the top one. Well, let's look. 3/5 plus 2/5 is 5/5, which is 1 whole. 4 plus 3 is 7. So 7 and 5/5, 5/5 is 1 whole, is 8, and that's what we had to begin with. Okay, so that's how you subtract with borrowing. Now you do have some problems to work on in your assignments. Make sure first off you have common denominators, and if you have to borrow, take 1 from the whole number column, add your denominator and numerator together, and you'll get your new top number.